I held Storm's End for him, watched good men starve, while Mace Tyrell and Paxton Redwyne feasted within sight of my walls. Did Robert thank me? No. Stannis Baratheon to Mace the Crescent. A Clash of Kings. Prologue. While in real terms, Robert's rebellion technically ended with the death of King Aerys II and the sack of King's Landing, there were still battles to be fought to secure the rebels' position, while most of the leaders of the rebellion remained in King's Landing, with the new King Robert to organise and plan how to proceed under this new dynasty. It was left to the young Lord of Winterfell, Eddard Stark, to ride south to the Stormlands and beyond, to mop up the last few remaining loyalist forces, with the biggest threat still being the Reachmen under the command of Lord Mace Tyrell, who had the king's younger brother Stannis besieged at Storm's End. It does seem that Eddard volunteered himself for this role shortly after disagreeing with his friend King Robert in regards to the fate of the children of Prince Rhaegar Targaryen, with the Lord of Winterfell reported to have left King's Landing with his Northmen in a cold rage. There was not ever a suggestion that Eddard would turn cloak after his disagreement with Robert, as even at this young age, and as seen through his actions during the rebellion, Eddard Stark was a loyal and honourable man. In fact, it may have been that very honour that caused this rift between Eddard and Robert. Stannis Baratheon, King Robert's younger brother, had a vital role during the rebellion, though at first glance it would not seem so, as he had been besieged inside the Baratheon seat of Storm's End, a near impregnable fortress, for the better part of a year, by the forces of the Reach under the command of Lord Mace Tyrell. In keeping the Reachmen occupied with the siege, it prevented Mace from marching north to join his strength to the larger host of Prince Rhaegar, being rallied in the Crownlands. It is possible that with the extra numbers provided by Lord Tyrell, it may have changed the outcome of the Battle of the Trident in the favour of Rhaegar, but, as any who have studied the histories will tell you, sheer manpower is not the only element that dictates a battle. Regardless, the role Stannis had played was vital, even if no songs were written of his valour. Following Robert's defeat by Lord Randall Tarly at the Battle of Ashford, which resulted in Robert being driven away from his base of power in the Stormlands, forcing him to march north to the Riverlands, the Tyrell host defeated any remaining resistance in the Stormlands, and then marched directly on Storm's End itself. A key factor as to why this siege was so brutal is the castle's granaries and storehouses were only half full, as the war had been unexpected. Very soon after Lord Mace Tyrell had begun to besiege Storm's End, with the Reach's host, Lord Paxton Redwyne, Lord of the Arbor, arrived with the Redwyne fleet and closed Shipbreaker Bay to all trade and other ships, essentially cutting Storm's End off. The castle was now surrounded on all sides from both land and sea. The only way Stannis could see victory is if the siege was broken by Robert's allies. Sallying forth and taking the battle to Lord Tyrell would certainly mean death, given Stannis only had just enough men to hold the castle and not to fight a pitched battle. It is likely Stannis, being the known commander he is now, was aware of this factor and saw the benefit to Robert of him and his men occupying the Reach's forces for as long as they can, rather than committing to a heroic last stand in death, wasting their lives. Mace the Crescent told Stannis that we might be forced to eat our dead, and there was no gain in flinging away good meat. Thanks to the Onion Knight, we were never reduced to dining on corpses, but it was a close thing. Renly Baratheon to Mathis Rowan. A Clash of Kings Chapter 33, Catelyn 4. Sieges, in many ways, are just as brutal as battles, but not for the reasons you imagine. To win a siege, to survive the harsh conditions, not just the commander, but his men need a certain mental fortitude and strength. The attackers also need to possess a certain level of patience. In theory, all an attacker has to do is to wait for surrender or until the defenders are weakened. If they attack too soon, even a small number of defenders could deal large losses to an attacker. In the case of the siege of Storm's End, Stannis Baratheon possessed the mental strength needed, and Mace Tyrell the patience to wait. It would be a long, drawn-out siege. The siege itself continued for the better part of a year, which is considered a very long time for a castle to be under siege. Food ran out, despite harsh rationing, Inevitably, it was only a matter of time, with his garrison having to eat their horses. There are some rumours and tales that even suggest they had to eat dogs and cats, and were nearly on the brink of eating their own dead. Donal Noy, the famed blacksmith of Storm's End, who had forged Robert Baratheon's famed warhammer, lost an arm during the siege after an axe wound festered when Lord Tyrell's men probed the castle's defences. Conversely, Mace Tyrell and his bannermen, such as Pax the Redwyne and Lord Mathis Rowan, feasted openly in the sights of the walls of the castle, next to the huge, lavish pavilions. Some of Mace's strength did march north to join the army of Prince Rhaegar Targaryen, but most remained at Storm's End, with Mace seemingly having very little urgency to assault the castle or join with the larger royal army. For the most part, Stannis Baratheon's men respected their commander, but as time wore on, discipline did begin to fray. There was at least one incident where the castle's master-at-arms, Sir Gawain Wild, and 3 knights were caught trying to sneak out of the postern gate to surrender to the Reachmen. Stannis Baratheon prepared to have them hurled at the Tyrell host by a catapult, but Mace the Crescent convinced Stannis to imprison the men instead, since the garrison might need to eat the dead if their food ran out. Gawain eventually died in his cell during the siege. The siege was briefly broken in the most unexpected way. Davos Seaworth, a low-born, notorious smuggler, managed to slip through the Red Wine Fleet's lines one dark night and entered a secluded tunnel beneath Storm's End that ran deep into the castle. His ship was loaded with nothing but onions and saltfish, but for the starving garrison within the castle, it was the best food they had eaten in weeks. This food Davos had smuggled into Storm's End allowed the garrison to survive long enough for Robert Baratheon to defeat Rhaegar Targaryen at the Trident and take King's Landing. As soon as the capital was secure, Lord Eddard Stark marched south on his mission to mop up any remaining loyalist resistance, with the first stop being the breaking of the Tyrell siege of Storm's End. With King Aerys II dead and the surviving Targaryens fled to Dragonstone, Mace dipped his banners as soon as Eddard and the rebels appeared on the field outside Storm's End. Within Storm's End, the horses had long since been eaten, the dogs and the cats were gone, and the garrison was down to roots and rats. Then came a night where the moon was new and black clouds hid the stars. Cloaked in that darkness, Davos, the smuggler, had dared the red wine cordon and the rocks of Shipbreaker Bay alike. His little ship had a black hull, black sails, black oars, and a hull crammed with onions and saltfish. Little enough, yet it kept the garrison alive long enough for Eddard Stark to reach the Stormlands and break the siege. The Thoughts of Mace the Crescent, A Clash of Kings, Prologue. According to some sources, the successful defence of Storm's End prevented Stannis and Renly Baratheon from falling into loyalist hands, and it helped the rebel Stormlords remain loyal to their liege lord, Robert. If Robert had lost control of his own seat, many would have questioned his ability to be king. After Lord Mace Tyrell surrendered, Stannis was ordered by Robert to construct a new royal fleet immediately and assault Dragonstone, where the last of the Targaryens hid, which would take up most of Stannis' attention for the coming weeks. The majority of the Reach Lords and Knights were later pardoned by Robert for their part in the war, alongside a score of other loyalist lords and houses. As a reward for his skillful and brave actions, slipping past the Red Wine Fleet, Stannis granted Davos Seaworth a knighthood, as well as a keep and lands on Cape Wrath, a war galley to be commanded by himself, and later 2 more commanded by his 2 eldest sons. Stannis personally removed the first joints of each finger of Davos Seaworth's left hand, as punishment for his smuggling past. Having lost an arm, the blacksmith, Donal Noy, would leave Storm's End to join the Night's Watch.